What's up guys, David back again with Lonesome Studios. Today we're going to look over the synth engine on the Nord Stage 3. We spoke about the piano last time. Today we're moving on to the synth engine, so let's get into things and have some fun. Okay, so just to preface this video, this engine is ridiculously powerful. That combined with the other engines on the Stage 3 and everything else, there's just loads going on. So this is going to be a very, very brief overview about what some of the stuff does. Like all of my videos, mess around with it if you've got a Stage 3 because it's always good fun. But I'm just going to give you a brief rundown of what you can do and how to get some cool sounds out of it if that's what you want to do. I don't want to do much playing today, so I'm just going to use our keyboard hold function down here in the bottom left, which effectively just holds what you're playing if you use a sustain pedal. So if I just play a note, hold down the sustain, obviously the note will sustain, but if I press keyboard hold and let go of the sustain, now I can just have a note going the whole time, which is nice. So let me just get a chord on and then we'll have a mess around with the synth and I'll tell you a little bit about what's going on. Okay, so the first thing I'm playing with obviously is this frequency knob. This is just our filter, so as you can see everything's labelled very clearly in areas on our synth engine. We're just messing with the frequency of our filter here. At the moment it's set to a low pass. So as you can see, we're just slowly allowing in frequencies as it says on our display here. So at the moment the low pass is kicking in right around 100 Hertz. This is a very common sound, you know, cutoffs on filters are just so popular. Everyone uses this sound, so this is a very common knob that you're going to use. So that's what I'm messing with there. Obviously, the next thing you're probably going to look at is changing the sound of your synth. So we can use our oscillator in the middle here. We've got a little screen in our synth engine to tell us exactly what's going on. It's a little intimidating if you look at it at first, but rest assured it's easy to get your head around and get your hands on straight away as well. So at the moment, obviously we're using our first oscillator, which is here, set to a saw wave. And if I just bring the filter up just a hair, if we flick through this, we've got loads of different options for our wave types. And as you can see, we have a second oscillator, and then in the middle here is effectively how the two oscillators interact with each other, so what we want them to do. At the moment, we've got a triangle wave as our main oscillator. The control at the moment is a 4-semitone D-tune, which is controlled by our oscillator control down here. And what it's going to do is it's going to move our second oscillator, which is currently a triangle wave, as you can see, up by 4 semitones as we move this. So let me just bring up the filter a hair. So there we go, now we're up 4 semitones. Back down we come. So it's not as intimidating once you get your head around it. And let me just mess around with it and you'll see the kind of things that you can get out of this control here. So as you can see, we've just got a normal oscillator 2 pitch here. So now we're doubling up on our synths. Just one an octave higher than the other. Okay, so that's just a little bit about what we're doing there. So as we can see in the middle screen, I'm using our oscillator control here to change what is being affected to the first one. So obviously you have basic things like a pitch change, we have the shape change. Here we're using the second oscillator as like a sync oscillator. So the more we fade in the sync, as you can hear, we're getting a bit more of a kind of like a resonant frequency there. And then as we move through, you know, we've got the D-tune that we were on before. We've got like a mix to a sine wave. So if we make this something a bit clearer, like a saw, we're just mixing between the two. Mix between a triangle wave and a saw, mix between a saw and a saw, mix between a square and a saw. You get the idea. So it's not as intimidating as you think. It's just kind of just how two waves are interacting with each other and how you want them to interact with each other. So nice and simple, nothing too crazy there at all. Let's just move on to our basic stuff. So obviously we've got the amp over here. Our amp is just what controls our first oscillator. So I can't really show off what we're holding, but I won't go into the basics of how an amp works, but effectively we just have our three controls: attack, decay, and release. Attack is how quickly our note comes in, decay is how long the note stays on while we're holding it, and then release is how long the note takes to fade away once we release. So very basic stuff, very easy to understand. Loads of tutorials about amps on YouTube. Okay, so moving on, we've got our modulation envelope here, controlled by this knob over here. As you can see, we can mix between velocity and mod envelope. So obviously if we have it set all the way to velocity, our modulation envelope is not going to affect anything because we're 100% being affected by our velocity. Again, if we switch all the way over here, now 100% of what we're playing is going to be affected by our modulation envelope. So for this tutorial, it makes sense for me to be on mod envelope because I'm not using velocity at all. As you can hear, we're changing the shape of our envelope with the modulation envelope. Obviously decay is the one that's making the most sense because it's as if we were holding down notes. Our decay is the thing that's going to be affected most by that. If we were constantly playing notes, our attack would also there, and you'd also hear our release as we are pulling off the notes as well. So this is effectively the counter to velocity. But let's switch it back to velocity for now. Okay, cool. So that's mostly everything. A few more things to go over. Next up is our arpeggiator up the top here, which I will have to play some notes for. So let's remove the keyboard hold and let's just turn on our arpeggiator here and let's just play some notes. Okay, great. So classic arpeggiator, we're running through the notes. Here we have where we want them to happen and how many octaves. So now we're doing it over 2 octaves, over 3 octaves, over 4 octaves, and then off to nothing there. So very simple. Let's just open up the envelope a little bit. And then of course we can change the rate. And we get given that in BPM. So if you're looking to combine arpeggiator with LFO, that kind of thing, just remember you're working in 2 different forms here. 2 different units. We've got beats per minute and also we've got hertz. So just be wary of that. Just remember that when you're working. Obviously the middle screen will tell you exactly what you need to know as well, which is very handy. So there you go. That's the basic arpeggiator. You all know how that works. Very, very simple. Okay, so there are a few other things. As you can see, we've got vibrato control up here as well. Just a basic click through here. This gives us control over the wheel. And this gives us a control over on aftertouch. And that's pretty much it for our synth section. There is some crazy things we can do once we start introducing our effects as well. This is all one engine working here. Like I said at the start of the video, once we start combining things, it gets a bit crazy, a lot of things going on at the same time. It gets hard to track exactly what's going on. But that's the basic overview of our synth engine on a Nord Stage 3. So thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed. If there's anything else you'd like me to touch on the Nord Stage 3, I'm going to be doing a few videos about it. So if you have any questions or if there's something you'd really like me to go in depth about, let me know. More than happy to oblige. And I will catch you in the next one.